can't even run home with my Yep. Well, that'll be good, and I think we're gonna put a plug in for some support. Yep. Yep, I agree. Okay. I don't know how disciplined the crowd is.
Yeah.
Go over and say, hey.
Give this a break.
Yeah, I think we should. Didn't work. They haven't got
Yeah, well.
Yeah, me too. I couldn't remember. I think definitely. I mean, I see Trump wears a tie, but basically everybody else doesn't. Well, I guess politicians. Yeah. It's hard to say. I don't know why they're here. There must be something going on. was there?
He wouldn't want to, we've asked. Good evening. I would like to call the meeting of the council to order and welcome each and every one of you tonight. And thank you for coming. At this time, I will ask Ms. Triplett to call the roll.
Mr. Craig.
Here.
Mrs. Patterson.
Here.
Mr. Howard.
Here.
Mr. Humphreys.
Here.
Mayor Lowe.
Here. And if you will, Officer Jennings will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we do the approval of minutes tonight, I have some information for the attendees here tonight that I would like to make a matter of public record. Over the weekend, it has come to my attention that Mr. Joe Levine recently sent an email questioning the accuracy of certain sections of the proposed minutes of the August 1st Town Council meeting to the clerk, Cecile Rosenbaum. Excuse me. The deputy clerk, Tanya Triplett, and copied his email to the following individuals: Nan Harmon, David Winship, Donna Levine, Edison Jennings, Barry Proctor, Nick Proctor, James Moore, Stephen Jett, Al Bradley, Davina Sexton. This is just for information because we have had a whole year of talking about issues that have currently become a part of a lawsuit. And we want you to know that we have heard everything you've said. We've made it a matter of record. We've listened. We've cared. And we go to church with you people. We work. We attend the same funerals, the same birthday parties. And we feel like we are all citizens of the town of Abingdon. We respectfully sometimes have to agree to disagree. But I want you to know that I've heard, and this council has heard, and care about everything that's said. But it is now in the hands of the court. The complaint is 30, I think maybe 32 pages. And in this complaint, we have countlessly, over the last 11 months, heard all of the things that are in this complaint. And we've allowed that to be public record. We are required to have one public hearing at the Planning Commission and one public hearing at the council meeting. But we've had countless other informal public hearings. In the future, if a member of the public disagrees with proposed minutes, the proper process would be to send the alleged inaccuracies to a council member to voice their concern, as it is the collective majority of the council that ultimately approves the minutes. Cecile Rosenbaum, as clerk and assistant town manager, works at the pleasure of the council. Tanya Triplett works under the direction of Miss Rosenbaum and town manager Greg Kelly. That said, the minutes reflect the objections of the aforementioned persons to the development of the sports complex, of the development of the sports complex being built on the 40 acres contributed to the town by Marathon Realty. The council has also received emails from the following people who have asked the council to consider listing the house and 40 acres on the National Registry of Historic Places: Warren Harris, Leslie Bradley, Albert Bradley. Those emails are a matter of public record since they were sent to all council members. Should any member of the public should desire, they can view those emails. I'm going to now refer to Deb Eisenhower, the town attorney, and I'm going to ask her to read an excerpt from Robert Rules of Order and to give us a little synopsis about the minutes of a town council meeting.
This is merely a summary that was taken from Robert's rules with regard to minutes.
Can you turn that? Yeah.
Directions in taking minutes include write and record what is done, not what is said. Minutes should leave no doubt about the final results on all motions, questions, or agenda items before the group. Leave out the he said, she said portion. There was also a section about no need for a court reporter. We have a video if you require that much detail. Now that is a summary in lay terms,
Okay.
but it is the spirit of Robert's rules.
Thank you.
Mayor, would you allow me to say something?
No, I want to finish my statement.
Okay, well, I thought you were through.
Please note that under the council manager form of government and under the town charter, the town manager, the town treasurer, the clerk, and the assistant town manager and the town attorney serve at the pleasure of the council as a whole body, which means it takes 3 public votes to instruct them to take any action outside of their normal daily duties or those imposed upon by law. If a consensus to direct them to do something otherwise is required prior to the open meeting, it is to be conveyed to the mayor for consideration of formal action. No individual council member has the authority to direct any of the council appointees or town staff to take any action on their behalf or on the behalf of others. We're here tonight to do the town's business, and we do not have any public hearings on the agenda as it relates to Marathon Realty Development or the 40 acres known as the Meadows. The VML Insurance Company hired attorney representing the town council in the currently pending lawsuit has advised all council members and town staff that we make no comments about the development or anything that is listed in this development, which includes National Historic Registries, it includes topography, it includes stormwater runoff, it includes noise, it includes light pollution, it includes everything that we have allowed to be said in these council chambers countless times. I take the attorney's advice to mean that any facet of the development, and that includes the property of the proposed sports complex, since there is some revisionary language in the contract in the event the rezoning does not occur or the sports complex and infrastructure does not occur. Heeding legal counsel advice, we will not be discussing any item in relation to the development except for the approval of the signage and on authorizing the town manager to draw down bond funds to procure design services for a sports complex at tonight's council meeting. The COA was discussed and approved last month, and public comments were taken at the Planning Commission prior to that approval. I apologize that we have had to limit this, but this has been going on for almost a year, and we will not be hearing any comments tonight in relation to anything that has to do with the development. It is now in the hands of the court. You are welcome to come to the court hearing. That is going to be October the 5th in the Circuit Courthouse. Judge Sage Johnson will be hearing that, and I invite all of you to come and hear what he has to say. Again, I want to tell you that we care about this town as much as you do. We have worked very hard. We've had more than enough public hearings because we care about you all. We want you to know everything that we know. And we also want you to know that sometimes we have to respectfully disagree. But we care about this town. And so I encourage you to be part of the process by coming to the court hearing and hearing what the judge has to say. And then once we can move forward. But we have advice of a legal attorney that is representing the town council as a whole. And we have a very thick document that was filed. And we feel like we have given the public almost a year to discuss this. And so tonight, we're here to do the rest of the council's business. And I'm sorry if you're disappointed, but we will not be hearing any more public comments about anything that is listed in this lawsuit document. Okay. Now, you may. Yes, you may.
Mayor, I probably caused this problem. As you know, I'm a new town council member.
Put your speaker on. There you go.
Yeah,
Hello?
you got it.
Is this okay? I probably caused this problem, Mayor. I'm a new town council member. I somehow have used, first off, I received the email from Mr. Levine, and my memory, I could not remember whether they were accurate or not. So I suggested that he sent forward the email to Cecile. She's a town clerk, and she has access to, as I understand it, to video and that type of recording devices, that she could clear up the matter, and I thought it should be done easily that way. I apologize that I didn't follow the procedures that have previously been that way, but that's how it happened.
Thank you.
And Mayor, may I say something as well, please? With all due respect to you, Ms. Lowe, as well, Mayor Lowe, I would like to readdress the public as not you people, but citizens of Abingdon, okay?
We're not going to be. This is not an audience. We're here to conduct the public's business, and we've listened to shouts and jeers, and we've carried on. We've carried on way too long. Tonight, we are going to have a meeting where all of the people are going to be able to hear all of. And when I say the people, you know, the Constitution says we the people. And so I'm here tonight to conduct the public's business, and I want everybody to respect each other. If someone is sitting behind you and you're whispering, they can't hear. And I had I don't know how many comments I had from the last council meeting that the people that were sitting behind some people couldn't hear anything that was going on. So, you know, what I want to do tonight is we want to conduct business in a respectful manner, and we want everybody to be able to participate and hear everything that's going on. So I ask you to if you feel like you need to clap, please don't. If you feel like you need to yell, please don't. We're in a public meeting, and we need to respect each other. Now, we are now down to approval of minutes. We have the August 1st work session meeting. We have the August 1st regular meeting, and we have the August 17th mid-month work session. Council, what's your pleasure?
Madam Mayor, I have a correction on the August 1st regular meeting. As you look down, as you look down your PDF file on page 14, it says, and I will read this aloud, and then the correction. Mr. Kelly stated that Food City, the owner of the study, has now turned over the complete study that was conducted by S&ME to DEQ and the Corps of Civil Engineers, and now it is a matter of public record. Then it says B can be released to the council and with any necessary redactions. And so it really should state, Mr. Kelly stated that Food City, the owner of the study, now has turned the complete study that was conducted by S&ME to DEQ and the Corps of Engineers, and now it is a matter of public record. It can be released to council rather than B can be.
Okay.
And I know that's just a simple one, but that's.
And I have a correction as well, Mayor Lowe. On the August 1st work session meeting,
Yes,
I had
ma'am.
mentioned that I thought that the most fitting place for the Washington County Historical Society was for them to move onto the Meadows property. And that needs to be added to those minutes, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I ask Cecile a question?
You may.
Cecile, have you Have you done anything about Mr. Levine's email and those issues in that? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Council, what's your pleasure?
I move that we accept the minutes as corrected.
I second that.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig,
No,
Mrs. Patterson,
Aye.
Mr. Howard,
Aye.
Mr. Humphries,
Aye.
Mayor Lo.
Aye. One second. Okay. We have a special recognition tonight that we are very excited about, and Mr. Greg Kelly, our town manager, is going to do that recognition.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council, members of the public. I'm going to try to lighten up the meeting a little bit now. And we have a very, very special recognition, one of which I'm very proud that this council is going to entertain a resolution here in a short period of time for. But this recognition tonight is for an individual who has devoted virtually his entire life to youth league sports and has had a tremendous positive impact upon the development of our community's children. He's made many, many children who might not have otherwise been so into very productive adults as a result of his influence. His love for the community's children and transforming them into these positive adults in our region is immeasurable, but it is definitely worthy of recognition and community appreciation. So with that said, I'm going to read a resolution that I'm going to offer to the council to adopt tonight, and then we have a few presentations for this individual. This is a proposed resolution by the council for the town of Abingdon, Virginia, to recognize one of its own, Johnny Jeb Stewart, for his continued dedication and service to the young athletes of our town and region, and to join with the Little League Association in congratulating Jeb for being chosen as one of only 16 individuals worldwide to umpire the 2016 Little League International World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania from August the 18th through the 28th, 2016. Whereas Johnny Jeb Stewart, hereinafter referred to as Jeb, a native of the town of Abingdon in Washington County, Virginia, became interested and involved in local youth league athletics very early in life. Whereas upon his completion of his Washington County public school education in the year of 1971 at Abingdon High School, Jeb began his 43-year involvement with the coaching of youth of this area and our local fields and facilities in a variety of different sports activities. Whereas during the said 43-year coaching stint, Jeb found himself coaching and officiating games in which members of the local athletic and coaching talent pool included, but not limited to, such notables as Barney Rubble, Fred Flintstone, Greg Kelly, Blake McKinney, Hugh Ferguson, Sam McKinney, Jeff Johnson, Whitey Johnson, Joey Johnson, Glenn Triplett, Mitch Halsey, Les Sutherland, Shane Poland, Mark Copley, Bo Blevins, Todd Yates, Doug Gardner, Roger Glover, Carson Smith, Mike Briscoe, Alan Hardwick, Tim Briscoe, Jimmy Scabo Anderson, John Briscoe, Tim Grubb, Alan Kilgore, Greg Widener, Jeff McCrae, Bo Coleman, John Copley, Jerry Castle, Sterling Ellison, David Copley, Jonathan Jonas, Nick Belcher, Ryan Jordan, Johnny Reichler, Justin Triblett, etc., just to name a few. Whereas Jeb has accompanied more than a dozen of his own teams to advance to the Virginia State championship games. And whereas during said extended coaching and officiating career, Jeb has coached and officiated for decades for the benefit of hundreds of area youth athletes and their respective teams in a variety of sports, with baseball remaining his love. And whereas Jeb has officiated high school level baseball, softball, and football pursuant to Virginia High School League for the past several years and continues to be involved in the same at the current time. And whereas in order to qualify to officiate at state and regional levels, Jeb realized he must begin to amass his qualifications by working hard and accruing quality experience, thereby distinguishing himself to officiate at higher levels. And whereas Jeb umpired the Virginia State Major League Baseball Tournament for 19 years, from 1994 through 2016, and whereas Jeb umpired the Southern Regional Major League Baseball Tournament in St. Petersburg, Florida in 1998, and whereas Jeb umpired the Southeast Regional Major League Baseball Tournament in Warner Robins, Georgia in 2013, and whereas Jeb umpired the 9 and 10-year-old Tournament of State Champions in Cerrado, Canova, West Virginia, and Greenville, North Carolina, every year from 2005 to 2016. And whereas Jeb umpired the 10 and 11-year-old Tournament of State Champions in Greenville, North Carolina in 2014 through 2015, and whereas one of the most important aspects to the success of the Little League International Tournament is the volunteer umpires calling the games. Umpires are selected for the World Series after going through a lengthy, stringent selection process. Appointment as a member of the umpiring crew for a World Series is the highest honor Little League can bestow upon an umpire, and selection means that these umpires are considered among the best in the world. And whereas Jeb was contacted earlier this year with regard to being selected as one of 16 umpires for the 2016 Little League International Tournament in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, chosen from a worldwide pool. And whereas the Council for the Town of Abingdon, Virginia, wished to recognize and congratulate Jeb for the honor his standard of excellence, endured, and tenacity has brought not only to himself but also to the town of Abingdon and our entire region. And whereas throughout the duration of his 40-plus years of distinguished youth sports involvement, Jeb has managed to run his own roofing company for the past 8 years and has held down another part-time position with a local company. And now, therefore, it shall be resolved that the Council for the Town of Abingdon recognize one of its own, Johnny Jeb Stewart, for his continued dedication to service of the young athletes of our town and region, and joins with the Little League Association International in congratulating Johnny Jeb Stewart for having been chosen as one of only 16 individuals worldwide and the first person from our area to umpire the 2016 Little League International World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania on August 18th through the 28th, 2016. And I want to get everyone to join me in all the acclamations for Mr. Jeb Stewart for the service that he has done. I also want to tell everyone before the council, and council has to take formal action, by the way, but I also want to tell everyone that while that's a very lengthy resolution, we could have written a resolution that went on and on well beyond that, and From a personal perspective, Jeb, I want to thank you for all you did for me when I was growing up and playing Little League ball. It's very important to me.
And Mr. Stewart, on behalf on behalf of the town of Abingdon, I'm going to give you something that not a lot of people have, and that is the coveted key to the town of Abingdon. I want to present you with the key to the town and a lapel pin that you can wear the next time you umpire, and you can put it on your left hand lapel so that they can see where you're from. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
And Jeb, we also have two balls that we would like to present to you that we got as many signatures from that group that I read off as possible, along with the governing body, to sign. Well, no, we couldn't get but we remember those stories. So, there you go.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it again.
Thank you.
Jim, I'm sorry, Mr. Stewart.
Jeb,
We need one shot with you.
you want these or not?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where you want me to stand? Right in the middle? On the edge?
There you go, thank you.
Your left or my left?
You're good right there.
Okay.
Is that good?
That's pretty good.
Okay. Smile at that. Perfect.
Okay. So, council, what is your pleasure on the resolution that was read by Mr. Greg Kelly?
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we approve this resolution as presented.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Craig?
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mayor Lo?
Aye. Well, again, Mr. Stewart, thank you for all you've done for the youth. All right, Jeb, thank you for all you've done.
And Jeb, we'll also, once this resolution is signed, we'll get you the official copy of the resolution.
We thank you very much. Petitions and public hearings and first reading of ordinances, there are none. Second reading of ordinances, there are none. Consideration of any bids. We have a consideration for the bid of the tennis court resurfacing project and Mr. Kevin Worley, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Mayor Lowe and members of council, I guess it's appropriate that I followed Jeb, just keep the Parks and Recreation theme going for a few more minutes anyway. This is the business side of it. In August, actually in July, we started preparing an RFP to get the tennis courts resurfaced at the Coombs Center. In August, we, with the help of Ms. Kingsley and some others, we advertised this to meet all the procurement guidelines for the state to enter into the RFP process. August the 26th was the date in which we actually had the formal opening of bids for the project. There were several companies that expressed interest. Excuse me, only 2 submitted formal bids due to the nature of the work that we were considering for the project. The project basically involves removing all the paint and surface from the current tennis courts, removing all of the materials and debris that's in any of the cracks, to prepare the cracks, to fill those, to repaint the courts, restripe the lines, and do this all in be able to also meet a time deadline by the middle of October. Before we get too cold, we don't want to be doing court painting at that point. The 2 companies submitted bids, met all the procurement guidelines. submitted all of the necessary documentation supporting their companies, including references that were very important to me in consideration for this. And the two bids that came in, one's 38,400 ppm markings out of Bristol. The low bidder in the project was Courtworks out of Roanoke with a bid of $22,000. Both companies, all of the details of the processes matched to be the same. One company apparently had some additional subcontractors, which resulted in their bid being higher than the others. But the process was exactly the same for both companies. And the recommendation is to go with the low bidder, which is Courtworks. They've done a considerable work in our area and have worked with the town previously. They redid the courts at Radford University, Virginia Tech, Blacksburg Country Club. They've done work also in our region with the Glen Roque Country Club and some other areas in Bristol, but they're very familiar with the area, and we're very familiar with their work. So the recommendation that I would make before council tonight is we would consider the low bidder, Courtworks, at $22,000.
And again, for the record, is the low bid the best bid?
Low bid is the best bid for this project. They meet all the guidelines. They are a outstanding company, and like I said, we have worked with them before and had no issues to consider doing business with them again.
And as you said in the work session meeting, they don't have to outsource, and their warranty's the same: 2 years crack, 5 years coating.
That is correct.
And they're going to use plexi paint.
And they're using plexi paint, which is the same court surfacing that is used, sponsored by the U.S. Tennis Association, which is what's on the courts at the U.S. Open. It's also the same court surfacing. It's at the Australian Open as well. And both the companies supplies all the materials. It is a one-stop process. They can take care of the entire job without having to outsource.
Thank you.
So council, what's your pleasure?
Mayor, I move that we accept the bid of Courtworks in amount of $22,000 for the project Harry L. Coombs Recreation Center Tennis Court Resurfacing Project.
And I second that.
And that, Madam Mayor, that motion needs to reflect authorization for me to sign all the documents.
And authorize can I amend it, or do I have to do it all over? And authorize the town manager to do what, Greg? Execute a contract? Yeah, execute a contract.
And I second that.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig.
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so we're down to reports from the town manager and assistant town manager, and we have a request for approval from the comprehensive signage plan for Marathon Realty owners, P.O. Box 518, Avenue, Virginia. Stephen Spangler, representative. Proposed comprehensive signage plan to govern property within the 10-lot subdivision property located near 440 Green Spring Road, commonly known as the Meadows Development Project, Zone B2, including all or portions of tax map number 105-A-39, 021-1-5B, and 021-1-5. Matthew Johnson, Director of Planning.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In accordance with the special use permit and per section 21-7 of the Code of the Town of Abingdon, the applicant has requested a comprehensive signage plan for the development commonly known as the Meadows. The intent of the comprehensive signage plan is to allow flexibility from the code with respect to signage. And typically, this is approved at the Planning Commission level. However, since the decision-making body that's considering the architectural review, for example, the COA, is the town council in this case, the comprehensive signage plan is going to be brought to you this evening for your consideration. I believe that the applicant's representative, Mr. Spangler, is here to present the CSP to you this evening. It was heard at the August 22nd Planning Commission meeting and was unanimously recommended in favor for approval. I will note that Mr. Schuman, who has been conflicted in this issue, was absent from that meeting. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Mr. Spangler.
Council. Excuse me. The comprehensive signage plan itself is about an 8-page document. The comprehensive signage plan itself is about an 8-page document with exhibits. So what I've done in a PowerPoint presentation is just to provide the highlights of the main aspects of the sign, including the pylon or multi-tenant sign and any monument signs throughout the development, along with some existing conditions along Cumming Street and some other depictions, just to provide. And I'd be happy to answer any questions during the presentation that you might have.
Let's turn it on. Mr. Spangler, while you're trying to get that to work, go ahead and try to get to work. Do you have a, it sounds like you have your horse, or you have a
It's been a long
cold or
day.
something going on?
It's been a long day,
Yeah.
so.
Can CJ turn that up at all so that everybody can hear him?
If you could, yeah, if you can bring that up and speak right into the
Okay.
microphone. They
Is
can-
this better?
There you go.
It's kind of, the clarity's not very good.
It's not.
Well, this is the pylon rendering elevation. The pylon rendering to the left that's got the peak was the initial pylon that we submitted for Planning Commission approval. They had a few concerns, including the height of the sign. So we actually had a workshop in mid-month to discuss that and came up with the right side rendering, which had several revisions, both to reduce the overall height as well as to design the sign that's more in tune with the other signs as a part of the development. Is this better?
Yes.
So that's the elevation of
You
the
still have to
pylon.
hold it up to your mouth.
Elevation of the pylon, excuse me.
Okay.
Next. And this is just some, the initial pylon sign renderings, a night and day perspective. And then what we actually revised the elevations to look like. We provided the same type of rendering, both a night and day perspective, for the Planning Commission review and approval. This just shows basically where the pylon will be located. It's effectively at the access point coming north on Cumming Street where you veer right onto Green Springs Road. That's effectively where the pylon will be located. This is just showing the proposed pylon detail. It's 48 feet in height, which we reduced from our initial depiction by 8 feet. Then the Planning Commission also had asked that we take a survey of all of the pylons and monument signs along Cumming Street corridor, which we had our surveying crew out there and do and shoot existing heights. You can see, and I can't, anywhere from 12 feet up to 119 feet, which is the McDonald's sign. So an average of all of these signage locations came out to 56 feet. So we are about 8 feet under that. So this would be basically the pylon that is for the overall development, including our property and any out parcels that may be transferred to third parties. Any out parcel or parcel over 5 acres, the comprehensive signage plan calls for 3 monuments for that particular track, not to exceed 15 feet. These are 2 depictions that we included to show the multi-tenant Food City sign that we'll have for obviously the Food City grocery store, as well as the inline lease tenants as part of that tract, as well as the Gas and Go monument sign. And then we proposed in our initial draft a 15-foot height requirement for each out parcel use. We came to 10 feet, and that was per the direction of the town staff and Planning Commission. Just want to note that right now in a normal B2 zoning within a quarter mile of the Interstate 81, you're allowed up to 25 feet in signage height. And so this was a significant reduction in that signage allowance. And again, I have not touched on it, but as you can see, all the architectural materials all kind of create a cohesive look within the development. And this is just a depiction that's included as an exhibit to the comprehensive signage plan, showing proposed locations for each of those internal monument locations. That's effectively the end of the presentation.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions?
Can we make a statement?
As long as the statement isn't about anything that's included in the lawsuit.
Okay. I was just going to say, with all due respect, with the Planning Commission and Mr. Spangler and Food City, I just think that this is a little premature since there's been new developments that are newly discovered. And the Historic Preservation Review Board has not had an opportunity to look into this archaeological study that's been newly discovered.
The judge will decide that, or the judge will give us direction on October the 5th as to how we proceed.
How can we vote on this, Ms. Lowe, if we're in the middle of the situation, this issue, and what's the rush?
We are moving forward. As far as I know, we have at least 3 council members who voted to approve the rezoning and the special use permit and the development and the sports complex. Until the judge tells us that that is not going to happen, or unless, I should say, the judge tells us that, we're going to continue to move forward as we have been doing since last October.
Well, it appears to me that voting on this tonight would be arbitrary and capricious because the citizens have not been able to look at this study in depth, and the Historical Preservation Review Board has not had an opportunity as well.
Duly noted.
Thank you, ma'am. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Council, what's your pleasure?
I'll move that we accept the Planning Commission's recommendations for the comprehensive signing plan for the Meadows project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig.
I believe the planning commission did a fine job, but in light of Ms. Patterson's remarks about it being premature, I'm going to vote no.
Mrs. Patterson.
Nay or no?
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is consideration for authorization for town manager to draw down funds for procuring final conceptual designs and complete design services for the proposed sports complex property. Mr. Kelly?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of council, this is much like what we did last month in terms of authorizing to do the traffic study for the sports complex property, and when council authorized the drawdown of funds for that procurement process. What we have tonight is, in order to be able to build the sports complex at this site, we need to determine first, through the use of engineering services, whether or not it can be put on this particular site. We now are aware of the contours of the land based upon the mass grading plan, and it is now incumbent upon us to try to have professional engineers look at this to make sure that what we had originally hoped for and had a concept for can actually work. So the process for this would be for an RFP to go out, request for proposals to various engineering firms, and much like the traffic analysis, a vetting committee will be established to review all of those proposals, and then we'll narrow it down, and then at that point in time we would negotiate who we would like to award that to and bring it back before council for the purpose of awarding the contract for those services at that time. Realistically, we're talking at about a 6-week window of time, give or take a week, to be able to go through the process of getting the information out to the engineering firms, getting the proposals back in, reviewing them, and then making a recommendation to the council. So I am requesting, much like I did with the traffic impact study, that that the council authorize me to draw down necessary funding at the appropriate time to procure the engineering services for the sports complex. And I will say one last thing in that regard. There's still a hurdle with the Corps of Civil Engineers that has to be overcome before we could even get into this process. So that will ultimately be decided before the engineering would take place.
May I have a comment, please?
may.
Okay. I think that, once again, I made a comment back at the Women's League of Voter about putting the cart before the horse. I think that we've already spent about $80,000 on those charrettes for the drawings, and is that correct? Around $82,000, somewhere along in there?
I'm not sure of the exact figure, but I can get that for you.
Okay, thank you. We still have to have a DEQ permit. There may be other situations, and I just want to let that be in light, that and go on record that I think this is premature.
Duly noted. Any council? Anybody else?
I guess I just want a clarification, Greg. This isn't saying that the sports complex would or would not be able to go on this property. It's just trying to determine if it could, and that's not considering the 106 survey that has to take place through the Corps of Army Engineers.
That's correct.
Well, and now also from DHR, Department of Historic Resources from the state of Virginia, they have to come down and look about any kind of artifact mitigation or anything like that.
If that's required through the Corps of Civil Engineers, yes.
Council, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion. We authorize the town manager the right to draw down funds if needed for this. I mean, it's still a long way off. Probably any decision by the courts will probably be rendered prior to this anyway, but I'm gonna go ahead and keep it rolling and make that form of motion.
And to procure the services and execute the documents? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'd like to make a substitute motion.
I second that.
I move that we delay this until the October council meeting, and if it's okay, I'll elaborate on that. My concern about going ahead with the work right now is that originally this project took out what I consider to be a dangerous curve on Green Spring Road, and as I understand it right now, that curve will remain. The traffic study that was done previously for the development indicated that traffic would be doubled on, at least that's my analysis, and I'm a traffic engineer, it would be doubled on Green Spring Road, and I just don't think that's a very good situation. So Mr. Kelly and Mr. Humphreys and I and Mr. Dew met together and discussed these curves and whether or not we should put additional traffic through there without making some improvements. John Dew is, as you know, is an engineer, and I'm an engineer. We looked at it carefully, and we couldn't find a way to take the curve out, but there was an alternate that was suggested, and we all agreed that we would meet with VDOT and discuss this and see if this alternative would work. Also, I have been working for some time on an alternate site that the property owner has indicated that that they would make available and to the town, work with the town, let me put it that way. the property is available, according to him. And I have laid the site, the sports complex, out on that site, and I've developed a grading plan for that site. And I met with the engineer today out on the site, and he looked at the grading plan I developed, and he thought it would work. He thought the whole thing would work. I've employed him to make an estimate of the earthwork to be done there, and he can do that in a short period of time. This site doesn't, in my opinion, have the traffic concerns that the site's been proposed has. It also will not require a 404 permit, which Mr. Kelly has indicated is a significant hurdle. I don't think it has the historic concerns that exist on the Meadows site, and I don't think it has any issues with that. The public has, in previous public comment sessions, has indicated problems with the Meadows property being close to the interstate, and that seems to be worthy of some consideration. And without taking too much time, I think we should meet with VDOT and see if there are alternatives to the curve. And it seems to me we could wait a month until some of this is discussed, and maybe I could make a presentation or the engineer make a presentation to the town on the alternate site with some cost information. So that's why I made the substitute motion.
So let me get this straight. Substitute motions are voted on first, is that correct? So, Ms. Triplett, will you read the motion, please?
Mr. Craig has made a motion, it's seconded by Ms. Patterson, to delay the process.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig.
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
We'll vote no because I don't think it's really gonna matter that much. So I'm voting no.
Mr. Humphries.
No.
Mayor Lowe.
No. Now I call for a vote on the original motion by Mr. Howard. Would you please read the motion?
Motion by Mr. Howard, second by Mr. Humphries, to authorize Mr. Kelly, the town manager, to draw down funds for procuring engineer services for sports complex designs and to execute the necessary documents.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig.
No.
Mrs. Patterson.
No.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye. Thank you. Next on the agenda is consideration of sponsorship for American Energy Society Local Energy, and in our work session, we didn't have enough information about the project to determine if we thought that was something we could take out of council contingency. So that will be on, that'll be on next month's agenda. Consideration of declaring 2 vehicles as surplus, 2 town trolleys, 702-81 model Chevy bus, and I'm not gonna read the model number, 70381 model Chevy bus, as well as drafting table, file cabinets, various hanging plants, picture frames, and a sundry of other things. Mr. Dew.
Good evening, Mayor Lowe, members of council. Come before you here tonight, similar to what we've done in a recent meeting, it's our town policy that when we as staff have equipment or vehicles or materials that we feel is surplus or outlived its usefulness for town use, we come before you and request that you declare these items surplus, and then
Excuse me, if you'd like to talk, please talk outside. Thank you very much. We cannot hear Mr. Dew. Just 1 second, Mr. Dew.
For
Officer Jennings, would you please shut the door?
Not that one.
Not that one.
Not that one, I was talking about that one. No, leave that one open. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, now.
Okay, again, coming before you, it's town policy to come before council and request that these items and vehicles be declared surplus. And in turn, we put them on online public auction. The two main pieces of equipment here are the two older trolleys. You can see. You can, you can see that.
This is our transparency.
I think it's the round thing, Kathy.
Okay.
It's off now.
Okay.
Okay, take three.
Take three. Let's try that again.
I come before you tonight to try to get these things declared surplus. So
You have some
these items,
vehicles?
two trolleys, 35 years old, very difficult, if not impossible, to maintain any longer. And we do, I do ask that you declare these items surplus, and if so, we will list them online for public auction.
Okay.
Phew.
Council.
I would like to move that these vehicles be declared surplus by our town manager and execute all the documents for sales and let Mr. Dew put them on the line for us.
And also, would that include the other items of property?
The works,
Okay.
everything.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig.
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was easy for you to say. And now, what we've been waiting for, Mr. Banner with Virginia Open Government Financial Transparency. We have a couple of speakers up here you can use.
Well, CJ's trying to get the technology straightened out. Mayor Lowe, members of council, tonight we would like to actually do a demonstration of OpenGov. OpenGov is a financial transparency platform that's being used. We're actually the first in Southwest Virginia to adopt it, to use it, and it was thanks to Greg and Cecile's blessing to procure it last year, last fiscal year. This is it's a software that will allow citizens to launch right off the web page to go to financial transparency. It'll allow them to look at 3 years of fiscal year data plus the current year. It is a demonstration that we're, I think, looking at CJ to see if we're getting close to doing, but it is something that I think that once you see it, you'll enjoy how it works, the flexibility it gives you, and the amount of data that's at your fingertips. CJ, how are you? We're good.
Thing's probably gonna talk to you again.
Yeah, this thing's talking to me.
Is that the lady, is that the
Yeah,
person
she's
from
from
California?
Yeah, it's from California.
Oh, okay. Well, you want to put her up there near the microphone or something?
Santana, are you on the line?
You need the speakers for that out here. Right, here's one, Chuck.
Santana. CJ.
Help.
I don't know if this-
How are you doing?
Ah, there we go.
There we
you
go.
are.
Santana, you are at the Abington Town Council meeting, and I know it's only 5 o'clock in California, but we're gonna turn over, let you talk a little bit about OpenGov, what it is, and then give a brief demonstration of how folks can use it.
All right, that sounds great. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, as Chuck mentioned, I am calling in from Redwood City, California. My name is Santana Shorty, and I've had the absolute pleasure of working with the Abington team to put together their OpenGov platform. And just to be sure, everyone can see my screen right now, correct? I'm showing Abington and OpenGov?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm also very excited and happy to be virtually joining you in Virginia, so super fun for me. Chuck and I put together this little agenda, so as he mentioned, I'm planning to do a brief OpenGov overview for everyone, and then we'll hop into the Abingdon site demo to show off all of the great work the team has put together, and then we'll leave it open for questions and answers. So very briefly, OpenGov is a software company based out of Redwood City, California, and our ultimate goal is to make really useful software specifically and only for governments. We believe that public administration and public entities and public government deserve the best technology possible, so we're really striving to help them share, compare, and analyze financial and non-financial government information. We are working with over 1,000 governments in the United States. We're in 47 different states, and we're a cloud-based platform. So our government entities upload their data to the OpenGov cloud, and with that, we did a little bit of analysis and found that probably with all of the financial data that's uploaded to our cloud-based platform, we help annualize over $500 billion in expenditures. On the screen, you'll see just a small smattering of some of the larger governments we work with, DC, the state of Ohio, the state of Pennsylvania, and we work with cities, San Diego, McKinney, Fort Lauderdale, and we also work with districts. So large or small, we like them all. We work with Hawthorne School District in California, Hacienda La Puente, also in California. I am a customer success manager. That is my title. It's a very positive title. So that means that the town of Abingdon is stuck with me, and it is my goal to make sure that this platform and this financial transparency tool is the most useful that it can be to the city, to the town, and its citizens. So I've been working very closely with the finance team, the IT team, to put together the site that we're going to be showing you today. And with that, I'm going to pop over to our demo page. Give me one sec. So to access Abingdon's Financial Transparency OpenGov page, you'll just want to go to the Town of Abingdon, Virginia's homepage, this beautiful homepage, and we've put together this Financial Transparency button at the very top. You'll just want to click on that to navigate to it, and this will bring you to this really great and informative web page that has a link that takes you out to the OpenGov site for Abingdon, as well as some FAQs just to help you get started. What is OpenGov? How do I use it? What is the data showing me? And there is a brief OpenGov tutorial for Abingdon that the town put together just to give you a little boost if you need it. And of course, we have this really great little how-to guide if that's going to be of use to anyone. To launch the platform, you'll just go ahead and click right on the image, which acts as a button as well, and this will bring you into the actual OpenGov Abingdon site. So for the purpose of the demo this evening, I'm going to do just a quick overview of what we're looking at, kind of the geography of the page, and then we'll go through some examples together. So you'll be first brought to the monthly report for general fund report. There are 3 reports that are available on the left-hand side of the page. We have the monthly report for the sewer fund, and we also have the budget report. For the purpose of our demo, I'm just going to be focusing primarily on the monthly report for the general fund. On the left-hand side of the page, we have our saved views right here, which act as bookmarks to FAQs or other financial questions. And if we click over to the filters panel, this is really where we'll be able to navigate through the financial data. And again, I'll go through an example of how to use this filters panel in just a second. We also have the town's most recent budget PDF. So if you want to just go ahead and open that up, we have it easily available for you right here. All of the town's financial data is shown on the graph in the main page, which is interactive. So at any point, I could click directly on the graph to get to the next level of information. Everything that is available to you in terms of the information in the graph is also available to you in table form below. And because the town has done a great job of putting budgets as well, we also have variance calculations to see the difference between the actual spending and the budgets. On the right-hand side of the page, we have this legend, which is also interactive. So I could choose to get to another deeper level of information by clicking on the graph or by clicking on the legend. You can always change how you're visualizing the data by with a different graph. So generally, we might be using a bar graph, but we can also use a pie graph, line graph, stacked graph, and so on. Finally, we have these little buttons in the upper right-hand corner. This share button opens up some options for you to share the information that's on the page at that time to social media or email. And you can also download an image of the graph or an image of the table or the spreadsheet in table form for in a CSV file. This help button has some great resources to you if you need a little bit of help how to navigate this site, or maybe a little bit of a crash course on multi-fund government accounting. You can also contact Abingdon directly through OpenGov. So if I click this little contact button here, we get this little window that pops up, and it prompts you for your contact information and for you to put your message in. This top part of the page shows us where we've filtered, gives us a little bit of an orientation as to where we're at. This reset button resets the page, kind of starting off with a blank slate if you've been drilling into the data and need to get back to kind of ground zero. And then you can also choose to go back. So before I clicked into taxes, I could go back to the last view that I had. I'm going to choose to reset right now. I want to now highlight the saved views that we've put together, that the town has put together. So these are some of the FAQs or maybe public questions that might be asked a lot or might be of particular interest to the town or different board members, council members. So this first one we have is how much money is collected on meals and lodgings taxes. So if I click directly on that, this is the view that I get. And just to explain a little bit what we're looking at is we're looking at cumulative actual spending compared to the budget. So the reason why we see this these July bars as being so small is because this is the first month spending. If using my filters panel, I decided to look at June, the end of the fiscal year, we would see the bars increase as that is cumulative spending for the month of June compared to the respective budgets. Again, we can use the graph or the legend to get into more information. So let's say I'm only interested in looking at the revenue generated from meals tax. I could just click on meals tax and I would be able to see that either in graph form or in table form below. Some of the other views that we've made available to you is how much does Public Works spend each year. So if I click on that, I can then see Public Works spending cumulatively for the month of July as compared to the original 2016-17 budget. We also have how much does Parks and Recreation spend each year, and a couple of other saved views. Now, and finally, I'm going to just take us through a quick sort of click-through tutorial on how to use this filters panel on the left-hand side. But before I do that, I'm going to click our little reset button to start off from the beginning. So this filters panel is an interactive way of going through the chart of accounts for the town and kind of digging through the data. So let's say I'm interested in knowing what the projected choose revenues instead of revenues versus expenses. And I can break down my graph by fund, department, or revenue type. In this case, the type of tax we're looking at is a revenue type. And I can either choose to click directly on the graph, the legend, or I can use these little pop-out panels which mirror the chart of accounts exactly. I can already kind of see what I'm looking for, the real property taxes, so I'm just going to click directly on that. And I think I am most inclined to a pie graph. So I'm going to switch over to pie graph, and I want to look at the original 2016-17 budget. So this shows me exactly what I'm looking for. I want to see revenues for real estate property taxes as they are projected in this upcoming budget. And if I want to just dig deeper, I can absolutely do that. Perhaps I want to look at the personal property taxes. I can click directly there and get to the next level of information. That is it for my demo of the Abingdon OpenGov site. Chuck, I will leave it to you to triage questions, unless there's something specific you'd like me to show.
While we have, our, I'm sorry,
Santana.
what's your name?
Santana.
Santana, while we have you on the line, council, do you have any questions or comments?
So basically, this is for budget, right, and other
It's actual budget.
expenses
actuals.
and actuals, okay, good.
But anybody can go on and check it out.
It's open right off the webpage.
It's free.
The data is uploaded probably two and a half weeks after each month closes. Sorry, I'm usually loud enough. 2.5 weeks after each month closes, you'll have the next set of data that's out there. The information, I want to reiterate, it's not live. It has to be drawn down in the file and imported and uploaded into OpenGov. It's a tool that I think will be very helpful for council as well as the citizens and anybody that would need access to it.
So this is, not live, but it is about 20 days behind. Sometimes in our council packets, depending on what date a Monday shows up, sometimes our council packet budget information can be 60 days behind. So this will give us an opportunity to know what the budget actuals look like between meetings.
And it's available, like I said.
Now, the link is gonna be on the home page of the
Be
website.
off the homepage. I'm thinking it's live tomorrow. I'm looking at Tennille Montgomery and John Phelps have been instrumental in getting this all put together. They've been very helpful to me. I know numbers, I don't know press releases, and I don't know technology to make it happen. I know what numbers I want to see happen, but they've been extremely helpful in making sure that this has been done the right way.
Right. So this shows all of our general
Fund and sewer fund.
revenues. And the reason sewer fund always shows up differently than general fund is that it's an enterprise fund, which means it is self-supporting.
Yeah.
And so that's why we have two different funds.
Any questions? Santana, you did an excellent job.
Hey Chuck, once
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Santana.
you want to mention to them about the tutorial that we've talked about doing?
I'll let Cecile actually speak to that. She had that idea, and I'm just going to agree to do it.
One of the things that we've talked about during the rollout process and the team that we assembled, Ms. Montgomery and John Phelps and I talked about scheduling some meetings or little forums, maybe using the incubator. We have a computer lab at the incubator that has 12 computers. We thought it might be nice if people wanted to actually sit at a computer. It's a lot different if you've, just getting into it, but we can actually do some demonstrations on showing you how to navigate through the software if there's things that you want to find. I think sometimes it really helps to actually for me. It helps me to put my hands on it and actually go through it. I think that would be helpful. So we're going to try to schedule that in the next little bit, and we'll put it out on Facebook, and Tennille will blast it out on all of our social media outlets and let people know when we plan to do that.
And, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think that would be a good mid-month work session meeting, to have us down there. We could have the meeting
Sure.
down there, as well as go through the tutorial, and it might be something that would be, that way we'd all be kind of on the same page, and if we needed help, we could call each other and say, how can I get to this
Yeah.
page?
And like I said, the one thing that I'm the most proud of with this is that we are the only municipality in Southwest Virginia who is using this technology, and I think that's something that, you know, we can all take pride in. And not very many in the state of Virginia, so I think OpenGov was actually really glad to see us and to know a locality of our size was giving our citizens access to this volume of information.
Right. For the public, if they have a problem navigating this, they want to, use this link, and they have a problem navigating. Who do you want the public to contact? If they send me an email and say, "How do you do that?" Who do I refer them to?
I would recommend sending them to myself or Mr. Banner. Either one of us would be glad to route that. One of the things on the site you'll notice is frequently asked questions that we've worked with Tennille on, and I think those up and going. Yeah, those are on there, and these are things that they have suggested to us. We've enhanced that a little bit. So my first recommendation would be to go there first, because the question you have may already be answered on the site. So try that first. If you can't find it, definitely email me, call myself, Mr. Banner, either one, and we will get you whatever assistance you need in figuring out how to navigate it.
And I think the tutorial video is very helpful as
Yeah.
well for those who just want to just click on the video and watch it to see how it's put together. I think it'll answer a lot of your questions.
Yeah, I think the one thing people need to remember is that government runs on a fiscal year, and that means July 1st to June 30th. So when you're looking at this stuff, if it looks like in January we haven't done anything, well, we're only halfway through the year at that point. So that's one of the things that you have to remember, because the fiscal year does make a big difference on how you look at governmental accounting.
Yeah, I was looking at the budget this time, and I kept going, "Why is the year-to-date not right?"
We look really good right now in
Yeah.
September.
Yeah.
We might look so good in June for him.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, and probably that's something we should say to the public, is that our revenues, we have two sources of revenues: taxes, personal property and real estate, and that are due in May and November, correct?
Correct.
Now, actually, we only collect personal property once a year.
In
November.
Those are coming
We
up.
collect real estate twice a year, which is May and November.
Mhm.
We collect meals and lodging tax ongoing, but that's usually 30 days behind.
Yes. Yeah.
They're not required to have it back into the 20th of the.
So
Of
it
the
can be
following month.
45 days.
It can be
behind.
45 to 60 days. behind.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when you're looking at that, keep that in mind, that sometimes it looks like the town's revenues are going down, but it's not time for the second round of real estate tax.
Right. And the one thing to remember about meals and lodging is that, restaurants come and go, hotels come in and go. We've got Captain D's opening up tomorrow, I believe. So we hope to see, an increase in meals tax. So those are some things that we can't predict when we're putting the budget together in February, March, or April. But we love to see those kinds of things happen, because that means that, there's meals tax, and they'll be reporting that. So those are things we can't count on.
Right. We hope this helps everybody see what the revenues are. I want to reiterate that the town's real estate tax rate is 28 cents on every $100 value of your property. So whatever the assessed value of that Washington County tells you your property is value at is what we collect in real estate tax. And, we're not supposed to be, we do have a balanced budget, but we are not in the business of government to make money. We're in the business of government to pay for our services. So, just keep the fluctuations in dates in mind.
Yes. And I also want to echo what Chuck said. I want to thank Tennille Montgomery and John Phelps both for their work on this. They've been really, really helpful. And there's a press release that will go out tomorrow. And I hope that if anybody has any questions, that they'll be pleased to give us a call, and we'll be glad to talk to them.
Kathy, I think Dan has a question.
1 second, Cindy had a,
I just wanted to say that I think this is a good idea. I think it's one step forward to letting the public know, open government, giving them all the information, all of our citizens the information they possibly can get. And I just had a couple questions, just real simple.
Sure.
Besides town staff cost, is this a minimal fee for the website?
The original cost was $7,400 for setting it up, and it was $3,800 for a year, so it'll cost us, it's based on your budget. So if you got a budget less than, say, 20 million, it fell in that range. Greg actually took the funds last year from his discretionary because he thought the idea was a worthy one. And we've paid for the first year, so we're good for this year.
Okay.
And it'll be a $3,800 ongoing cost just to have this information available.
okay.
Thank you.
Miss Arrington, I think, had a question. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
One other thing, Chuck, I always find it interesting where the ideas and product comes from. How did this evolve? How did you all discover this?
Well, I'll also give Greg the credit for this. I was in Jack Tuttle's class, and it was late in class, so I do pay attention late in class. When he flashed this up, a couple of sites you might want to look into. So I jotted them down, started doing some research, also talked to a colleague of mine in another locality in Virginia that does have it up near Richmond. Got some feedback from his director of finance. They had nothing but glowing remarks about it. Then I proposed to Greg and Cecile that I really think this is an avenue we ought to go to, and got their blessing, and lots of work and lots of, this data just didn't appear in here. It was, my staff has done an exceptional job of compiling all this to get the information available to OpenGov, and we've had to work with their through their programmers to get everything set up, and it's been an experience, but it's I think it's a worthwhile one.
So now tell everybody who Jack Tuttle is.
Jack Tuttle was the former city manager of Williamsburg.
Very good, thank you.
And one of our professors in our classes.
Right, but this kind of came about because that you all are taking extra classes to try to keep up with the technology and what's available out there. I know you're taking it, Cecile's taking it, who else is taking it?
Kevin's in there, and Matt is also in with us.
Matthew's in there.
Cecile has graduated.
Oh, I'm a
Alumnus.
yes. Mhm. But this is also robust software, so when you start clicking around, you're not gonna have to wait for it to pop up. I was so impressed with how quick it is and how, robust is the best word I can think of to describe it. And Chuck actually had one of our auditors was on site this week and brought her in today when they were testing this demo out, and she was extremely complimentary and impressed with what information we had available, and had not seen it, to my knowledge, anywhere else. So I think, as Chuck said in the meeting earlier, if you can impress an auditor, you're doing pretty good. So.
Well, now that you opened that can of worms, tell everybody about how that we go about accounting and about the having the internal auditors.
We do have auditors on site that they're called pre-auditors. They basically compile the financial statements beforehand, so you've got one set of eyes on it. Not only my staff, you've got the pre-audit staff that does it. Then the firm that's actually that you all approve for the regular audit is Brown and Edwards out of Bristol, and they will come in even after that and look over the financial statements that have been prepared by Thrower Blanton Associates. So it's a 3-layer process, and there's lots of folks looking at the financial data.
Right, and just to be clear, there was a time that the town did not have any internal auditors. These internal auditors are not employees of the town of Abingdon. They are outside internal auditors, if that makes sense. So we have 3 layers of auditing, and now the public can see all of the revenues and expenditures within a 20 to 25 day time frame.
Correct.
Ms. Arrington.
I have a question about how detailed is the information?
It'll go down to the object code level, which is the expense type. For instance, like if you wanted to see electricity, you could drill down to where you could see what the town spends on electricity every year.
But not like a set of tires for the bus?
No, I'm not, it doesn't go down to the transactional level, it goes to the expense type or the revenue type level.
Sort of what you see in the paper budget
A
then?
little more detailed than that. You can drill down into fringe benefits. You can see how much we're paying for health insurance or those type of things. You get a little more, well, a lot more detail than what's published in the paper.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Code of Virginia requires that we present a budget, a comparative budget, a 3-year comparative budget, and per line item.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have 10 bottles of water and, 14 ink pens or whatever, but it does say office supplies or,
It's to the expense
and it's
level,
per
expense
department.
category. Per department, yeah.
Per department, so it's not some big number that is
Right.
obscure.
No, you can drill down to any department that you want to see this information on.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Thank
very
you
much.
all
Thanks
for,
support of this, too. We
thank you for doing this. Thank you also. The town allocates money for education for the town staff, and we have been questioned before as to why we spend that money on people who already have an education. And this is one of the reasons that we do that, because technology has made business change daily. And so I appreciate that the town staff is willing to go above and beyond their jobs to take these classes so that they know what their job is and they can make recommendations to make the town a better place.
Could I follow up on that, Madam Mayor? I would just like to say that the program that these folks are involved in is a master's level program. It was created by the Virginia Local Government Managers Association, of which Jack Tuttle was president at the time the program was created. It is an affiliate program with Virginia Tech, and by virtue of being a member of VLGMA, all of our folks are eligible for scholarships. And so a large portion of the tuition is paid by my organization, the Virginia Local Government Management Association. So I'm very proud of all the folks here at the town who have taken those courses, and I believe, as is clearly indicated tonight, they've all been very well educated by the process.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. So now we are down to, and they have waited patiently, Bob Trevorrow, Treasurer, Trevorrow, I'm sorry, Sage of Southwest Virginia.
I'm going to talk about Sage, but I did want to thank Madam Mayor and the council for letting us come in this evening and be present. Sage is an organization, a small organization that got started after a course that David Winslet taught over at COA. A small group of us got together and decided we would check and see what kind of services, facilities were available for senior people. And we found out that the county serves its seniors pretty well. There's some perhaps difficulty in finding what those services are, what is available, how to get to them and such. But the fact is that seniors are pretty well served in the county. So what we've done is kind of migrated to another subject, which is this aging in place concept. And before I say too much more, I'd like to introduce Craig Wiley, who is the president of our group, and he'll go over exactly what we're doing. And again, thank you for having us this evening.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing time with us. Originally, Bob was going to do all that, and I was supposed to be moral support. And somehow that morphed.
It's because he knows that you speak in public, or used to speak in public on a regular
No,
basis.
I still speak in public. So I'm going to briefly tell you a little bit about why Sage came into being in our history and our programs. And then I have a handout for all of you, but having spent 20 years in education, I didn't pass them out to you because then you'll be reading them and not listening. So you'll get them at the end of the meeting. So this is a 1-minute elevator speech, okay? Sage has been created because aging in life is a given, and we all experience it. As older adults, we have to answer 2 key questions. Where do I want to live? And who's going to be responsible for how I live out my life? So the members of Sage believe that the best person to answer each question is the person who's asking those questions. In other words, each of us is going to be responsible for how we age. If we want to have a say in where and how we age, then we're going to have to take control of that process and plan for our future together. And this means that we're going to have to do the work ourselves because no one else is as interested in the answers as we are. So we have 2 basic objectives. First, we want to share what we have learned about what we need to do to age in place. And second, we want to invite people who are also interested in the topic, who are inclined to find out more about the topic, to join us as we go about meeting our needs collectively. To those ends, there's this group of people that now are 12 in number, and we've been going on almost 3 years now to create this organization. And this past month, we became a nonprofit corporation in the state of Virginia. We filed our paperwork for our 501c3 status. We have a mailing address, an email address, a bank account, and the web page is in process. We have a 7-member board of directors, and to date, we've collected operating funds through membership dues and donations. We meet monthly, and we have organized ourselves into committees and project committees that are staffed by members of the community. We see ourselves functioning as an umbrella organization of these various committees. So let me tell you a little bit about what these committees are. Our rollout is starting this month with our College of Older Adults class, and that was how we were going to introduce ourselves to the community. We also have a neighbor-to-neighbor project entitled South Holston Lake Communities, and that's a variety of aging in place called Neighbor to Neighbor, and so that's a trial project that a couple people on the board are working on. We also are exploring a Village to Village. We have a trial membership with them. That's a national organization that helps people create villages within the community of people helping one another out. And I'll give you 2 quick examples. So if you're a senior citizen and you don't drive anymore and you need a prescription, that's a problem. Or if you need to get to a doctor, that's a problem. And so there's a process to get someone to take you or to pick up the medicine who are involved in the organization. The same sort of thing with if you need someone to do some maintenance around your house. And so the Village to Village model provides vetted workers to come in and do that work for you, and then Sage would put you in touch with those people. So in the packet, you're going to have this little 1-minute speech. There's the new brochure. There's the purposes of Sage that come out of the corporate papers. That's a 1-page thing. And then there's a 3-page document about the glossary. And the glossary is important because this is a new field and depends on who you talk to, and there's 6 different definitions or titles for the same thing. And so that's what that glossary is about. It gets confusing. We feel blessed that we've got a relationship with Elder Spirit, which is an example of aging in place. And they're working as part of our SAGE group, and some of their members are on our board. Besides the COA class that we're rolling out, we've done a couple classes at the Abington now Community Center. We did those early in the year. One was about decluttering, and one was about, well, what do I need to do for my house so that I can stay in it? What sort of structural things do I need to do? Like I need to get levers instead of doorknobs, and practical things like that. We also are putting together a resource guide that we hope to be able to distribute to people who are interested in it for senior services about health and housing and transportation, finances and recreation. And we are also doing this similar program with, we're on the agenda with the District 3 group for the state of Virginia, and we hope to be on the agenda with the Washington County Board of Supervisors. The last thing to let you know that we're actually serious about all this is, so far we've spent $1,600 out of pocket ourselves just since the first of the year, and we had to file in the paperwork we had to file a budget for September to the end of the year, and so we're probably going to spend another $1,200, and we've got a budget for that. So I think the biggest thing that we wanted to share with you tonight is that we're serious about organizing, being an umbrella group to gather local resources for senior citizens. And I'll just add one private note about this. When we moved here, when Judith and I moved here almost 14 years ago, we did so with the intention of retiring here. And so when I retired from St. Thomas, everyone said, well, now where are you going to go? And I had to remind them that 10 years earlier I had said, we're not going anywhere. And so this is a group of people who have all made that sort of decision, and that's why we're here. And so that's what we hope to do, and we hope to be able to come and talk with you in the future about projects that are going to be beneficial for the town and for the senior citizens in the town. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them, but we won't take time meeting to do that. Unless well, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just moving them all. I was going to say, I've known you all 14 years, and you look just as young as you did 14 years ago.
That's just who he is.
That is who he is. He does a great job with that too. So, are you all working with? Did I hear you say you're working with the community center to
We're now working with the
identify-
community center now. As I don't know how, I don't want to get into more politics. That's they wanted to start charging us rent, and so we found someone else who would let us meet without charging us rent. And
That is what it is.
yeah, so.
But I guess maybe I didn't mean that. I didn't
Oh,
mean
okay.
meeting there. I meant like, to identify seniors and
Not yet,
kind
no.
of cross.
No, because our agenda is about keeping people in their homes or in their apartments and keeping us out of nursing homes where we don't want to go.
Okay.
Well, okay. I think there's a real niche and need for this. It's totally separate from what the community center is and the senior center does right now.
Right.
It does dovetail somewhat with
Right.
the housing authority, and the Abington Housing Authority had a program, and so does Rob Goldsmith. People Incorporated. That's called Warm, Safe, and Dry.
Right.
And Warm, Safe, and Dry is a program that I helped institute, Lord have mercy, 18 years ago, or more. I don't know if it's been about that long. And the town did some funding for it initially, and they have not been doing it lately. But what Warm, Safe, and Dry is, instead of going and doing an entire project like a house, like that the federal government required you to do, we as a locality were able to do smaller projects. So we had someone that needed a ramp because they now are in a wheelchair. That's the kind of projects that we worked on. And we also had somewhere that there was a lady who had not had a commode in 4 months because it had fallen through her floor. And so she had no sanitation whatsoever. And so we were able to go in there and to rebuild that bathroom for her. So those are the kind of smaller projects that I guess what I'm saying is that you might find a friend in funding and possibly identification of individuals and a resource to send them to with the Warm, Safe, and Dry program, as well as the Warm, Safe, and Dry program, as well as the People Incorporated program too.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
And-
Well, that's
and do you
exactly
know-
why we wanted to let you know that we're here to do this, and I appreciate that.
I met with Pete Steigers. Do you know Pete? He's
I
with
don't
Habitat
believe
for
so.
Humanity.
No.
And they are in the process of putting together the Restore. And so
Right.
that might be something.
Absolutely, and what we see ourselves as is being that umbrella group that can help do the connecting part.
Okay.
And I'd like to say this is a nice alternative for senior citizens. They're near and dear to my heart, and I appreciate you looking out for them.
Thank you.
Near and dear to my age.
Me too.
Some of us are very invested.
Yeah.
Get permission to hand out the propaganda?
Now you can hand 'em out. Now you can take it home and read.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us. So that takes us to matters not on the agenda. Members of the public may address council members regarding matters not listed for action on the regular agenda. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Do I see anyone who would like to speak about matters not on the agenda?
Jim Moore, 133 College Street. Just take a second of your time. I just want to remind all of you that Abingdon is a certified local government under the Virginia Department of Historic Resources designation. That's the important thing for this town. Only 30-some towns or governments in the state have that designation. Lots of benefits come from that, not just from the state, but the Park Service as well. Whole list of benefits that the town should be taking advantage of, but it's not. But with those benefits, there are a lot of requirements. There are a lot of responsibilities that come with those benefits. First and foremost, the town should provide for the identification, evaluation, and protection of its historic resources, continue to survey its local historic and heritage resources, expand the historic district or create new districts to preserve those areas, promote public participation in this process, and work as an advocate for preservation of these resources in the locality. My concern is that Abingdon is abdicating its responsibilities under this, and that concerns me greatly. I'd like you all to look at this seriously and preserve your history, not destroy it.
So
Thank
would you mind giving Ms. Triplett a copy of that so that she can make copies and email
Sure.
to the rest of the council?
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Jett?
A couple of points of clarification, if I may. Now, we've been instructed not to say anything having to do with the lawsuit.
Yes, sir.
Am I,
We have pending, I'm sorry.
If you can hang on for just 1 second, Kim's telling me something I can't.
Okay, I'm sorry, if we can wait until Mr. Moore finishes with Ms. Triplett. And Joe.
is it not the case that the lawsuit concerns only the Marathon property?
No, sir. There are, and I spent the day, or I spent the afternoon reading the complaint. And it talks about the Meadows property, it talks about the house, it talks about ball fields, it talks about traffic, it talks about the ponds, it talks about the stormwater runoff, it talks about the comprehensive plan, the zoning, the public, preservation. It talks about the topographic features. It talks about the farmhouse parcel. So it is not just the quote, end quote, food city development. And it is quite extensive. You know, it's on the record. I mean, I'm sure that if you'd like a copy of it, we could have Miss Eisenhower forward a copy to you of the original complaint. It is now at the clerk's office on the record.
Yeah, well,
And so, you know, we don't want to be hard to get along with. We don't. We just, you know, this has been very difficult for everybody as far as, you know, what they think about it and what they surmise. And, you know, and we don't have a definite. And so now that it's in the hands of the court, and it has been refiled, and then a request for an injunction has been filed. And so we did not, and maybe this is something that we didn't make clear, because I know that we didn't make it clear to Ms. Patterson or Mr. Craig, and we just assumed they knew. But the town council, as any board, is insured. And we're insured by the Virginia Municipal League. And the Virginia Municipal League, once the town council was sued in its entirety, hired an attorney to represent the town council. And that attorney has asked us to refrain from talking about this lawsuit. And it is on the docket for October the 5th, and which isn't really that much further down the road. And, you know, we have tried to listen for, like I said, it's been almost a year. And so what we think right now is that we need to take the advice of the attorney and let the attorneys and the judge make a final decision, and then we will, as a group, get back together and figure out how to move forward.
May I suggest respectfully that the town council and the town of Abington not, excuse me, not take any action that presupposes the outcome of the litigation?
You can make that suggestion for the record.
I
Yes,
do.
sir.
I do.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So we have several appointments to boards and committees. And we have the reappointment of Scott Wilson, Jennifer Ramsire, and Aaron Hicks to the Recreation Advisory Committee. All are eligible and willing to serve another term. Council?
I would recommend that all three be reappointed. They're all active members in the commission.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig?
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mayor Lowe?
Aye. And we have also the reappointment of Nicholas Leidig, who is eligible to serve another term on the Tree Commission. Council, do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig?
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mayor Lowe?
Aye. Now, the other boards and committees are going to be Sustain Abingdon, Economic Development Authority, Sinking Spring Cemetery, and Board of Zoning Appeals.
EDA.
And
EDA.
I said.
Oh, okay.
He said that.
Okay.
And so we are going to go into closed session because we have a lot of applications. But I would like to make the announcements before we go into closed session, and then I'd like to take a 5-minute break before we go into closed session. Is that okay with council? Okay. So our announcements are September the 11th is opening night performance of Peter James, The Perfect Murder. On September the 12th through the 17th is the Washington County Fair. Something that's missing from this is September the 12th is a joint planning commission meeting with.
Well, it's supposed to be with Washington County. It is going to be anyone and everyone is welcomed, and it is the Metropolitan Planning Organization. It is going to be Bristol, Kingsport, Johnson City, and Abingdon, and the transportation plans from now to 2040. So it's strongly suggested that everyone show up for that, and that will be in this chamber. And Rex Montgomery, who is on the in the employ of Bristol, Tennessee, and the head of the MPO in this area will be giving that talk. It is actually only a informational session. There will be no vote taken, and I'm not sure. Rex might, out of the goodness of his heart, answer questions. I don't know if he's even prepared for that, but
I believe that's at 5 p.m., right?
You got it.
Mm-hmm. And I will be at 6 p.m. attending another meeting at Virginia Highlands Airport Authority. And so some of the council may be splitting as far as which meeting we're able to attend. They've all been called on the same evening. September the 14th is Surviving an Active Shooter event at Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator. This is going to be by the presented by representatives of the American Red Cross. It'll be 8 to 9:30. We will not actually have reenactment of active shooters, but we will have a presentation of all of the things that they suggest that any entity consider. So that will be at the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator at 8 o'clock in the morning. September the 14th is New Knowledge, Excel the Next Level. That's also going to be at the incubator, and the entry level of Excel is on the YouTube channel called Noon Knowledge. So if you want to know about Excel and how to use it, please tune in or come to the incubator. September the 19th is the Art of Tailgating with Susie Buckner at the Higher Ed Center from 6 to 9. September the 21st is Noon Knowledge Employment Law. That's going to be held at the Small Business Incubator. September 21st through 23rd is a call to arms at the Abingdon Muster Grounds from 9 to 2. September the 24th, Over the Mountain Victory Celebration at the Abingdon Muster Grounds, 9 to 3. September the 24th, 8 p.m., opening night performance of Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way comes at Barter. Gala to follow. September the 25th, Appalachian Literacy Symposium at Virginia Highlands Community College. September the 28th, Noon Knowledge, Financing a Growing Business at the Small Business Incubator. All these Noon Knowledges are on Facebook Live. They are also hosted if you have the live stream app. And if you don't get to watch them live, you can go to the YouTube channel, and they are usually downloaded within 24 hours, and you can watch them there. So,
Madam Mayor, I have just one more.
Okay.
Actually, I have two more things on. September the 24th, the Over Mountain Victory Celebration at the Muster Grounds is the first time that they're doing the adult component. It's the first time I've done it in several years. Just so happens it's on a Saturday, so it enables us to take advantage of that. The 21st to the 23rd is for school children, but you're welcome to come out also. We have 1,500 fourth graders that will be going through, about 500 at a time, and that is the Muster Grounds, and that's where that, if y'all remember where Rosie Dunn, Paula Dunn, the Dunn family had that property, and that's where that is located. And the other thing I wanted to mention is, I'd be remiss if I didn't do this. September the 25th is my mother's 85th birthday. So be sure to call her up, 628-5040, and give her and tell her happy birthday.
What's that
and don't tell her that I said this.
I like her better than you. What's her number?
628-5040, Wayne.
September 25th.
September 25th, yes. So we are going to take a 5-minute break, and then we are going to go into closed session if I have a motion.
Okay, yes, pursuant to 2.2-3711A1, for the consideration of appointments to boards and commissions, I would like to call for a closed session.
Do I have a second?
In 5 minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig?
Aye.
Mrs. Patterson?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mayor Lo?
Aye.
I guess we did well. Well, I think we did very well.
Hey, Kathy, how are you doing? We heard that.
Not banner. Change the sign in, so you get all the questions. So true. Yeah, I love to give credit where it's due. I don't believe it.
That's
Yeah, I was trying to find you on the internet. Couldn't find you anywhere. Well, we
That's why.
Come on. It was been there, done that. Got
Cause she punched me and she was like, she said he gave the look. Dude doesn't mess, I gotta say, he really does. Dude's got nails. I don't know if it's a effect.
And that's the reason we're doing Plus, it's a great deal, because anybody we haven't appointed in here, we're keeping their name on this project.
Oh, yeah. Have fun.
CJ.
It'll work out okay.
CJ.
Oh, what a lovely day. Like I said, it's been a wonderful 2 years.
The clarity of the voice on that was excellent. I was really impressed. Yeah. Yeah, but it was really good. You could hear.
You did a good job on getting that picture. Just
I told them that you.
Bob, you doing okay?
The great help. You do it the best.
do it, do it. Come on.
Which grade goes? I got like a dozen.
Oh, you have a whole. That's hilarious.
That's the surprise look.
Cause Kim punched her. Keep walking. Kim punched me and she said, he did the look. I said, yes, I know. I said, who does it the best?
During the surplus?
Greg, I walked out in the hall, and I think that Jim was about teared up.
That was really neat. What an accomplishment. Seriously.
Might be able to just.
I told them we were gonna be here all night for him. If I had known, I'd have told him to cut that stuff out for him. I think he was really pleased.
I was gonna see, because they had to put that pipe in. I can't tell you when, but I do want to meet with you about the urban pathway. Oh, okay. I've told you that since a year.
He'll make you walk it, Damien. He will make you walk it.
Oh, true. That's fine with me too. See, I get my eyes a rest off like a piece of Yeah, but, I'm hoping maybe by the end of next week, things will kind of start to simmer down, because they're gonna want content that's not Battle of Bristol.
Okay.
Oh, that's the only one that can get on that.
Big four.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I'll shoot you an email. If you wanna take me out and start, tell me what you got, show me where everything's gonna be, that's
I think the
great.
best way to do it is just getting a vehicle and driving to show you.
Sounds good to me.
And whatever questions you have, and then.
You know the one you can pay. If you indeed need.
We'll probably try to get some bids. I'll tell you whatever. Don't worry, I got plenty of others.
Okay. It is. So do I have a motion to go back into open session?
I move we go back into open session. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Craig. Mrs. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye. And could you read the certification, please?
Whereas the council of the town of Abingdon, Virginia has convened in a closed meeting at this date pursuant to the affirmative recorded vote in accordance with the provisions set forth in the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas section 2.2 3712D of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended requires a certification by the town council that such meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. And now, therefore, it be resolved that the town council of Abingdon, Virginia hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from an open meeting required by Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting, to which this certification resolution applies. Only such public business matters were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting where were heard, discussed, or considered by the town council.
I so certify.
I so certify.
I so certify.
I so certify.
Very good. So we have one little, before we go to appointments, council, we have consideration for Sustain Abingdon to change their bylaws so that they can change their meeting date from the second Thursday to the second Wednesday of each month. Do I have a motion to approve the bylaw change?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Craig. Mrs. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye. Okay,
I
now,
have one to, let's start off with BZA. Let's get it out of the way. We have people who waited here all night.
there you go. So, council, do I have a motion? We have, Paul Quetch is not eligible for another term on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Do I have a motion?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to move that John Kelly be appointed to that vacancy.
I second that.
Mr. Craig. Mrs. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye.
You got 'em back.
Aye. Okay. Next is Economic Development Authority. We have two openings. Rachel Folks does not wish to serve out her term, and John Lagarde has asked to not be reappointed. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to have Tarn Rosenbaum and Shayna Carico.
I'll second that.
Mr. Craig. Mrs. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye. Next is Sinking Spring Cemetery Committee. Jack Frost is no longer eligible for another term, and David Winship is no longer eligible for another term. Council, do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to have Sigrid Phillips and Mike Ferris, please.
Second.
Mr. Craig. Mrs. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mayor Lowe.
Aye. And last but certainly not least is the Sustain Abingdon Committee. We have 3 eligibilities. And council, can I have a motion?
I move that, I would like to move that on the Sustain Abingdon Committee, I nominate Bradley Conklin, Tim Wade, and Sherry Lieb.
Do I have a second?
Mr. Craig. Mrs. Patterson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries.
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe.
Aye. Being no further business, I call us adjourned.
Thank you, Mayor Lowe.
Thank you.
Hey, Wayne, don't run off, man.